All right, we have got Jimmy Kerr with us today. This is for the first podcast, first episode. I'm excited to have him on here. I've known him for quite a while. He owns his own mortgage company, and we go back to we both used to work at a bank, and that's where I got to know him at. Just the purpose of this podcast, man, is to I'm wanting to talk about businesses in our area of the state. This is Eastern Kentucky, and a lot of people just may not be aware of some of the businesses that operate here, what they do, and I just kind of want to make an awareness to our population of what's out there, the businesses that are available. But I'm also, in this time of COVID, I'm really wanting to help promote our local businesses too, just like yourself. And so that's the purpose of the podcast, man. And I just kind of I'm going to just turn it over to you. I'm going to let you talk a little bit about your start, and you've got this entrepreneurial spirit, man. And I just kind of go after it. Tell everybody about yourself.
As far as where the entrepreneurial spirit comes from, I can't really tell you. All I can tell you is that I don't play well with others. I have a hard time not working with other people, but, I have a hard time being told what to do. So it was always I guess it suited me best to try to find something I could do for myself. Now, I started working at a young age. I was, 15 years old, first job I ever had. I was flipping burgers at the Dairy Queen. And I did that because I liked money and I liked having my own money. And my dad wasn't the guy that would just hand the money out all the time. If I wanted something, I had to go work for it. I used to have to cut weeds. I liked basketball cards and things like that when I was a kid. And if I wanted that, I had to cut weeds. And, I would get some money and they would pay me in ball cards. Usually my dad, my uncle would. So working just kind of started, or that work ethic just has always kind of been there. And then again, like I said, the entrepreneurial aspect of it is I just always wanted to work for myself because that suited me better. And so I've done a lot of different things until I kind of landed on, the mortgage industry. Now, I've been working for a bank since I was 16, 17 years old. And I've kind of worked in every facet of it at some point along the way. And, I've owned pizza places. I've done a bunch of different things just over the years, just trying to make money, traded in ball cards, different things like that. But the mortgage industry always just kind of stuck with me. I was good at it and I enjoyed it. It's like you'll hear people say all the time, if you enjoy what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's actually true for me anyway, when it comes to the mortgage business, because I truly enjoy it. It's a different challenge every day. And there's nothing more rewarding than helping somebody get into a home that otherwise maybe couldn't. And so, we worked for the bank that we worked for. I ended up leaving there, starting my own shop. I essentially took what I did there, lifted it up, and did that for myself. And that was like 7 years ago. And here we are. Yeah. So but it's very rewarding, and I enjoy it. And then now I get to work with you. The thing is, man, what's cool about the mortgage business is I know everybody. I financed everybody in their brother's houses over the years. So I know all kinds of people. And, I think I financed your house back in the day when you and Summer built it. So
you did.
Yeah. And so, yeah, just over the years, got to know a lot of people, which is cool. And like I said, I don't see me slowing down anytime soon as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, for sure. Now tell everybody, what's the name of your business, Jimmy?
It's My Hometown Mortgage.
My Hometown.
And I named it My Hometown. People are like, oh, that's kind of generic. But there was actually a reason behind it. Is I always tell people I'm from a little community called Inez. It's not very big, population 600 for the town itself. And I always tell people, look, my success was created by my hometown. It was because the people here in Martin County kind of rallied around me when I got into the business and actually did business with me. I was just a kid.
Yeah.
And that didn't matter. They knew me, they knew my family, so they did business with me. And so I call it My Hometown Mortgage because my hometown is what made me successful.
Absolutely, man. And you know that's what's so awesome about what we do. Same with my business. I mean, this isn't my hometown, but it feels like it's my hometown. I've been here so long, and that's where I've got my. I guess that's where I've started my business at. But me and you, man, we relate so much because I mean, I was the same way. I always like when I was younger. I mean, I actually we started a lawn care business when I was in college, and that's how I paid my way through college. And you know, when I got out, we started in the bank. You know, like you did. You started working in the bank when you were 18 or whatever. And yeah, that's kind of where we got our start. And that's what. But we both had that same. I remember talking to you. I would always come to you and talk to you all the time about like rental properties, what you're doing here, what you're doing here. So we just, I think, always shared like that same kind of background, same kind of just entrepreneurial spirit. And it's awesome that what you do to help people here in our area to get into homes. Trying to make dreams come true for them. So I want to talk a little bit about that if you could. Is
Sure.
what you do, how you help people to get into these homes, things that they can do. Give everybody maybe some pointers or tips on what they can do to better prepare themselves to go throughout the process, and how they can get the best rate, make the process as smooth as possible.
Right. Well, and you know this as well as I do. Right now is one of the weirdest times in as far as doing business with this COVID-19 business going on. And so it's made it different. But as far as the one thing that I tell people, if you are a prospective home buyer or loan candidate, you need to get prepared. It's like anything else, right?
Yeah.
Perfect preparation. So you've got to get prepared. You don't want to just say, okay, I'm going to go buy a house and then roll out and do it. You actually want to make sure you want to contact the lender, whether that be me or somebody else. Get yourself pre-qualified. And all pre-qualification is actually having a loan application taken. We just get your information, we get your credit pulled, and then we do a quick analysis of your debt ratios, like, what you can afford to pay as far as the house payment is concerned. And then primarily we look at the credit to make sure credit-wise you can go through the process, because that's where a lot of people will run into issues, and especially right now, is credit score is the big thing. It's the gatekeeper. And they've increased all the credit score requirements because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have a lot of people come in, they're all gung-ho, ready to buy a house, and then their credit score is not high enough to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you think in the next 6 months you're going to try to buy a place, then you need to reach out to a lender, let them get you pre-qualified. And if there is some issues with your credit, then there's things that can be done. We do it every day. I did it yesterday for somebody, where we sat down and I have tools through the credit bureaus where I can essentially go in and manipulate your credit report and say, well, if you get a new credit card, or if you pay this down, or if you do this, this happens to your credit score. And we do that for people all the time and get their scores up and get them home ready. One of the most satisfying things that I do is take someone who has been turned down by 5 banks, right? They've been to 5 different, not just banks, just lenders in general. They've been turned down, and then they end up with me. And they're like, we just can't get approved. And I'll sit down with their credit and I'll give them a roadmap on do this, 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 and this. Now, it's not going to happen in the next month. It may take 6 months. It may take a year. But if you do this, 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 and this, you'll be able to buy a house. And when those people close, and I close at least 1 or 2 every single month that we've been through that process with them, and it's very rewarding for them because they had to work to get there. And it's rewarding for us because we help set them on the path when nobody else would.
Yeah.
And, this sounds really corny to say, but I almost feel like I'm called to do that. It's one of those things where I understand it in a way that a lot of people don't. And I understand the credit bureau in a way, and I can't help people when nobody else will help them. And most of the time, man, people want to do the right thing when it comes to their credit and all that. They just been like everybody else. They were young and stupid at some point and did something, bad with the credit, but there's ways to fix all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so we help them do that. And then that's the main thing. I know I went off on a tangent there, but that's the part about the business I'm kind of most passionate about, is helping people, that have had issues or whatever. I love doing that part of it. But it's primarily about getting pre-qualified and knowing what you can afford. That way your realtor will thank you, your insurance agent will thank you. because you already know kind of where you're at. You're not looking at houses. You're not wasting anybody's time. You're not looking at houses you can't afford. And a lot of times, what's the saying? Your eyes are bigger than your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that these $350,000 houses that you want, you can't afford. And it'll kind of put that in perspective as well. And you can get a good idea of what kind of house you can be looking at.
Yeah. And something else too, that, for me being on the insurance and financial planning side, where I see, you can expand on this a little bit, but owning a home is not just making sure your debt to income ratio is in line, because, owning a home costs more than just making that mortgage.
That's right.
So,
yeah,
you got to know if you're ready to, if your heating and air unit go out, you got to make sure you've got enough funds there to, and I assume that's something that's what these debt to income ratios help do, is to, they're not there just to make sure you can just max out as much homage as you can get, but they're there to help protect people, to make sure that they can afford the home, and
right.
There's a little bit built in there to be able to make up for any extra costs that come with owning a home.
Yeah, they come from statistical analysis based on foreclosures. Over the years, they take all that data, people who lost their homes, and there's certain debt ratios that you're more inclined or more likely to lose your home. And so all that stuff's built in. And, the one thing I always tell people too is to have the discussion before you get to us. And most of the time people haven't had this discussion, but I have them have the discussion while we're doing the pre-qualification process, is what kind of payment do you think you can afford? Because at the end of the day, I ain't got to make your house payment. You do. And it's one of those deals where I guarantee that I can get you approved for more than you think you can afford. I guarantee it. Almost always people are like, well, I think I can afford $700. I can get them approved for $1,500. Well, that doesn't mean because I can get you approved for $1,500 that you should. You need to work your own budget. And I ask people to go through that exercise, to go through and work their budget, make sure, payment wise, what they feel comfortable with. And then we try to stick somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
So, but because it's true, man, I said it's people, I don't have to make your house payment.
So tell me so with all this COVID stuff going on, man, and so say people are laid off right now because of that, what are some things that they're having to do right now that are unusual, or that you're having to do to help get them approved? If they're say they're in the middle of buying a home, or they're ready to finance it, but then COVID hit, or what's the process? How's all that working right now?
There is no process. You're denied.
Just denied, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
You can't close. You cannot close, man. It's one of the oddest things I've ever seen. We went through a spell there where when the quarantine first happened and all that started going down, I lost 17 deals in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Because people were laid off and further. Now, some of those are coming back, right? Some people were able to hold on. They're getting back to work. We do a lot of business in Central Kentucky too. And like people that worked at Toyota were basically not full-time. They were not working. They were paying them for like 38 hours a week, and we couldn't close until they went back to work.
Yeah.
So no, it's complicated things in a big way. And if you are working, we have to get pay stubs. As long as you're processing the loan, we have to update pay stubs. We have to update bank statements, because we got to make sure you're still working. Yeah. There's a whole phone call that you have to do at the end before you close, that basically you're swearing and giving a blood oath that you will not go into forbearance, because FHA loans, it was one of the unintended consequences. They gave people the opportunity to go into forbearance whether you were laid off or not. Well, that had a negative impact on what we do, because these banks now, they're not going to get paid. So, for a period of time, so they essentially shut FHA loans down. I had deals, Chase, that were ready to close. I was literally in the closing process, and they just cut the program out. And you just couldn't do it. You shouldn't close. They just cut the program out. So it's definitely been a challenge. It's, I've done this for 20 plus years now, and this has been as challenging a time as I've ever dealt with in the mortgage industry. It truly is. Now, we're also crazy busy. Rates are good.
Yeah.
A lot of people refining. If you're in a good position right now, it's a good time to, good time to refi. It's a good time to buy if you're in the position to be able to do so,
Yeah.
and go ahead.
No, you're fine. No, I mean, maybe so I know back whenever I financed my house in 2012, rates were like, I got like a 30-year at 3.5, man. And I thought, man, that's awesome. But they're even lower now. They're lower now than
Yeah.
they were then. And maybe by 75 basis points or more. So it is crazy right now. If you can take advantage of it, it's definitely a great time to do that. Now, where do you? I know you're in Inez. You've got an office in Pikeville.
I do. My primary office is in Pikeville. It's 3780 North Mayo Trail. We're there, and we're in Pikeville because it's the busiest, I guess, city or county. And what I do, you have to be able to, run the business or make enough money to be able to survive. You've got to be in a place where your median loan amount is at a certain amount, and Pikeville kind of fits the bill for that. Plus, you're almost kind of central to the I wouldn't say you're central, but you're within driving distance of all the other counties in Eastern Kentucky, and so it was a good place to put the day-to-day office. But like today, I'm in Inez, and I'll have people from Lawrence County. Sometimes Johnson and Floyd will come over here and meet me, and then sometimes they come to Pikeville. But I work out of both locations, just try to make it as convenient as I can for people.
Yeah. And are you so with all this remote working now? Are you doing Zoom calls with customers? And
we do Zoom calls all the time, and that actually works pretty well. People seem to like that. Actually, like it better than I think they thought they would, because they actually, and this, if you use Zoom, you can share your screen with them, so they can see me while I'm talking to them, but they can also see my screen while I'm taking their loan application, and they like it better because they can actually see what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I never thought about that.
Yeah, and they can see the payments. So when I'm talking about the payments, which I always flip my computer around and say, all right, here's what you're looking at. But they can sit right there on their phone, wherever they're at, and actually sit and look at what their payment's going to be, and they can see exactly what I'm talking about. And so that's kind of nice. And that's actually, we started doing that. We were ready to do that pretty early on in the quarantine, and it actually has worked well and has something that's carried over since all that started. Now, you've got your people. I'm one of those people. I like to do business in person. I like to come see Chase and sit down and talk to Chase and, shake Chase's hand. I'm that kind of guy. There's a lot of people who are still that way and like to do that. But the younger generation, they could care less. It's either a phone call or a Zoom, and they're tickled to death. So, and so it's nice. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's nice and it is easy. I do a lot, man. Like we have to go over pre-disclosure packages with people. Like when you're going through the process, you get under contract, we work up what are called pre-disclosures, and you sign those. And the pre-disclosures is basically a snapshot of what your loan should look like when we close. Now, it's not exact, but it'll get you in the ballpark. So you have an idea of what you're going to be doing. And we used to have people come in and sign those all the time. Nobody comes in now and does that. We either send it to them, they do digital signature, and then we'll do a Zoom meeting, and I can go over it with them right there on the screen. But, really nobody wants to come in.
I know it's crazy. About a year ago, I started transitioning my agency to be able to do everything digitally, just like we are now. And it's amazing. When COVID hit, I mean, we didn't skip a beat. I mean, we've all been working from home and doing the digital, the e-signatures, everything over the phone, over video conference call, text, email, whatever. But it is crazy how most people have it's kind of like it took COVID to happen for people to really be comfortable with it. They're like, well, if this is how I got to do business, and then after they were forced to do it, they're like, well, this is kind of nice. I kind of like that doing business. But yeah, I mean, it
is, man. People love it. They do. People love it, man. Nobody wants to come in. I mean, really, everybody's lives are so busy, and everybody's got one of these. It's if you can do it from there, especially the younger generation that's coming up, that's doing business now, that are buying houses. Right here's where it's at, man. If you can do that, you've got an advantage. You have a business advantage. And I was kind of like you. I was transitioning because I like technology, so I was transitioning a lot of things to be ready. if that ever came about. And then when the quarantine happened, it was just like, boom, and we haven't looked back.
Now, do you utilize any digital marketing, like social media, anything like that, for your business?
We do. I mean, we do not market a ton, okay? And I know a lot of people find that odd, but I've been doing this for a long time, and what I've found is word of mouth for my business is the best advertising that I could have. If I do my job well and I help somebody, buy a house, they will go out and tell 10, 15 people. And it has always been that way. So I very rarely do any kind of advertisement. There's a real estate magazine, one of those books where you can look in if properties are for sale that I advertise in for the realtors. That's a minimal investment. I have a Facebook page. I have a Twitter page. I have an Instagram page, where we post, photos of our closings and things like that. But as far as actually using or paying for any kind of digital marketing, I don't. I've never really had to. It's always just worked best for me to, just the word of mouth. It just has always worked best. And so I've never really – I did pay the other day. I'm going to get a billboard there in Pike County on 23. I've never even tried that before, but I thought I would try it. I try something new every year just to see how it works. I'm one of those people, I got to test things out for myself and see. I can't take anybody else's word for it. So I'm going to test that out and see how that works. But outside of that, brother, I don't do a ton of marketing.
Yeah. No, I understand. Word of mouth is definitely the best referral source. So, the reason I asked you about that is because, this is the first podcast I've ever done. And part of the reason doing this is podcasts are becoming a more widely used way to promote, whether it's promote your business, whether it's promote stuff in your area, or just trying to get the word out. And you've actually got your own podcast. So tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, mine is absolutely not to promote business of any kind. It's me and a couple other guys. It's a buddy of mine, Jason Dameron. We call him JD. And my brother-in-law, Brad Broadus. And it's called Just Add Bourbon. And it really doesn't have anything to do with bourbon. It's just that was a nod to Kentucky, and we thought it sounded cool. So JD and I are very different people. JD is the defensive coordinator for our high school football team. Big old dude, bald head, goatee, and a total snowflake. And I say that with love. Because I give him a hard time, but he's a total snowflake. And but an awesome guy. And he and I, our daughters played softball together, and we would always end up kind of gravitating towards each other, and we would sit there and debate politics and just different things, but we could always do that in a way that was respectful. Like there's so much, it's so polarized today. You're either here or you're here. You're either right or you're left, or you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. And we would sit there, no joke, and during these softball games and just debate. And people started coming around and listening to me and him debate.
Yeah.
And one day he just said, we ought to do a podcast. And I said, all right, that sounds good to me. I'm down. So probably 2-3 weeks later, we actually got together. We had one microphone. I ended up asking my brother-in-law, because he's totally into politics and that kind of thing, and fun to talk to. We got together. We had one microphone. We sat around and just started talking. And this past Sunday, we did our 50th episode. Our Sunday episode, we did number 50. We had Alan Levinovitz on. He is a associate professor at James Madison University. He just wrote a book called Natural. And he was just on the Joe Rogan podcast. He did a 3-hour interview with Joe Rogan. And so he was on our show, and it's been a ball, man. Like I never dreamed we would make it to 50 episodes, and I never dreamed that we just have a good time, and it's become fun. Like I really look forward to it, and it's nothing that I necessarily, when we started, I had any high expectations for, as far as actually turning into something, that could be a business or making money, but it has turned into that. I think our last video, we started doing these Facebook Live interviews called The Other Side of the Glass. And we started doing those. I think the last one we did got 10,000 views. So, it's really started to kind of take off, and we're actually, transitioning now into memorabilia and advertisers. So, we're starting to transition to that, but it's called Just Add Bourbon, and you can pick it up on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. I mean, pretty much anywhere that you can get a podcast, you can download or listen to it from there. But yeah, it's ended up being my passion project, man. I said we do it every Sunday. We go to JD's. We call his bachelor. JD's a bachelor. He lives a very different life than what Brad and I live, and we just have a unique dynamic because JD's pretty left, Brad's pretty right, and I'm somewhere right in the middle. Mm-hmm. And so it's an interesting dynamic, and we've got, I think, good chemistry, and it's ended up taking off, man. We're having a ball doing that. That's my passion project right now, is getting together with those boys and running my mouth.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think we're running out of time here, so we'll wrap up. Be respectful of your time, and I appreciate you coming on, Jimmy. And I'm so glad that we can start this podcast. I'm sure I'll probably want you to come on again. Maybe we can talk a little bit more, maybe even more about your podcast in the future. Sure. But in case anybody's listening, Jimmy Kerr is at My Hometown Mortgage. He's operates here in Eastern Kentucky. That's in Martin County, Johnson County, Boyd County, Pike County. Basically,
everywhere. We basically do Kentucky, right? We do business in Kentucky. That's our playing field, and we do all over the place. And it is funny that you said, something you said earlier, and I meant to comment on. We have ended up doing business all over the state, and that's because we have websites and different things like that. But, when people will do Facebook reviews for us, it's amazing the business that we pick up and where we pick it up in the state these days because of the internet.
Absolutely. I absolutely. Same thing with my insurance businesses. We've started promoting to all over the state. We focus mainly in Eastern Kentucky, but yeah, definitely it's opened the doors to a lot more business. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really has. It makes competition, man. I said, hopefully the consumer should get the better deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, man, thanks again for your time. And
it's all good.
Anybody wants to reach out to Jimmy, it's myhometownmortgage.com, right?
Yeah, myhometownmortgageky.com. That's the website. And then My Hometown Mortgage, you can, like I said, we're all over the place, so you can find us.
There you go. And I'll put the contact info and our details on the podcast too. So pleasure talking, man. And I'm going to have to listen to that Just Add Bourbon podcast to see what that's all about.
It's fun, man. I said we have a good time. Like this is your first one, but I think you'll find it gets to the point where it's almost addictive because, and no wonder, like I listen to Joe Rogan, right? Mm-hmm. And he's always talking to experts. And so it becomes addictive to talk to these people because like we did talk to a guy one time that did he was a bourbon taster and he wrote for like a bourbon magazine. I don't even drink. And I had the best time talking to that guy. Just all these questions I had, like, I don't know, you will dig the podcast, man. It's a lot of fun. I'm excited for you. And I appreciate you letting me come on and sit down and run my mouth for a little while.
Yeah. Deal.